But I think we got to start with Nikola Kusturica, who predictions are coming in for him to go to UCLA. And Kris, why don't you just kind of set the table on who he is as a prospect and what UCLA might be getting in Kusturica?
Well, he's the missing piece to the puzzle. I mean, he's the big wing that everybody's been clamoring for this entire offseason, the game-changing sort of talent on the perimeter that shores up this UCLA roster outside of maybe another 5, but that's another story. He's over at FC Barcelona. I'm sure people are very familiar with him. 6'8", can shoot it, put it on the floor a little bit, but I think his ability to create, facilitate, and then the length really stands out. So for UCLA's roster, I think he feels a need in terms of somebody that can guard bigger guys, somebody that can go up a position and play a stretch 4 in spurts. And most importantly, it keeps Eric Daly Jr. out of the 3 position, which he had some struggles last season in defending folks. Eric Daly Jr. as a stretch 4, kind of a point forward, is one of the biggest cheat codes in all of college basketball. We saw it to close the season last year, double-doubles everywhere, ever since that Illinois game, which I will always bring up, where Coach Cronin went with Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly Jr., and then the 3-guard look. I think Daly Jr. really blossomed, kind of hit his stride, got back comfortable again in a position that he had played a lot during his sophomore season as well. Kusturica is all that in a bag of chips, a projected top 5 pick in the 2028 draft by Fran Fraschilla, who calls him one of the greatest Serbian prospects since Nikola Jokic. So what they're getting is a 16-year-old prodigy if UCLA does pick him up, which all signs are pointing to. Our very own Travis Branham has issued a crystal ball for Kusturica. Now, Travis did have a crystal ball to Kentucky. Things changed. He pulled it. Now he's reissued one, this time for the Bruins. I think this is the big recruiting coup that Bruin Nation has been waiting for Coach Cronin to pick up.
Absolutely. We got a YouTube comment from Giant Pinhead. KJ, glad to see you, man. So Kris getting some love on the show. Any comments on the YouTube we will put on air as long as they're appropriate. So
yeah. Make sure you're scanning that.
So keep those coming in. So Kris, with Kusturica, he clearly solves a need. There's just a gaping hole in the team for a wing, and he would help solve that. He's 17 years old, Kusturica. If they do end up getting him UCLA, he's going to not be able to get to campus until August after some international tournament obligations. It's just going to be him getting off to a late start. He's already pretty young. Realistically, it's tough to answer until we see this kid in person, but how big of an impact can he have early on next season? I think he'll play a good amount because they need him to, but is this a guy who at 17 years old can come in and really be a true difference maker, or is it going to take some time?
No, he's a difference maker off top, right off the bat. He's not a guy that's going to come in and have to feel his way. The thing about Kusturica is he's seasoned, so he's playing at a very high level, has been playing at a very high level for FC Barcelona. His U18 team is actually one of the world's most talented U18 teams that we've seen in a long time, probably about 4 to 5 generational type prospects on that roster. He's currently at the U17 World Cup with Serbia. He's putting up about 18 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks a game. I don't think it's a question that he's an instant impact performer the day he steps foot into Westwood. Coming in August, yes, that might sound like somewhat of an issue, but let's think about it. Jalen Petty last season at Texas Tech came in at August, missed the whole summer of summer workouts, ended up averaging close to 10 points a game in Texas Tech in the Big 12, which sent 9 first-rounders to the draft, one of the toughest basketball conferences in America. My point about that is if you're hooping and you're playing all summer, you're not going through sort of a rusty process. Now, integrating himself into the mix of what Mick Cronin is doing, the offensive flow, the defensive scheme, and the chemistry amongst the teammates is obviously going to be a growing process. But I think that this guy is sort of this basketball mercenary vagabond type that can, go anywhere in the world. And as long as he's got his shoes and his ball, he's going to be ready to hoop.
Based on what's happened in the past with some players at UCLA, is there any concern that the learning curve for Kusturica will be very steep and he could face some challenges? I mean, I'm sure he'll face some challenges. Playing for Mick Cronin isn't for everyone. I know he's signing up for this. This has been a recruitment if he does pick UCLA, where Kentucky's been in the mix and Michigan's been in the mix, and now UCLA. But how concerned are you that we've seen some international prospects have some trouble getting accustomed to playing under Mick Cronin? Do you think Mick Cronin's learned some lessons, and just how will this work out with those concerns in mind?
I mean, who are you referring to as far as the guys that struggle?
Adai Mara would be the first guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, to a certain level, but again, you got to think about the cloth that Kusturica is cut from. He's Serbian, and so the Serbs they're like the second basketball's most popular sport there. They're arguably the second best type of basketball player in the world other than Americans, and their coaches are absolute maniacs. So I played for a Serbian coach twice in my career, once in Russia, once in Lebanon. And those dudes are just, they're psycho. You're working out 3 times a day. They're yelling, they're screaming at you. They're demanding, they're tough. They're always in your face. They're talking a lot of stuff. They're challenging you to be the best you can be. So I don't think that from that perspective, there's going to be a learning curve in terms of adjusting to Mick Cronin's style. You do have Yogi on that sideline, who actually is over in Europe right now coaching the Serbian U20 team. So he's going to be, acclimated. You do have 2 Serbian teammates to make the transition a lot smoother as well. And in this day and age, when you are a hooper and you're competing on the highest levels of youth international basketball, I just don't think your learning curve is going to be too steep. Now, he's going to go through the natural growth issues that maybe a 17-year-old, wing is going to have to go through to adjust to big time, high major college basketball. But at the end of the day, after watching this guy play, watching all of his reps on the U18, U22, and the Barcelona senior national team, I have no concerns about him being able to adjust to UCLA or the, growing pains that he might have to endure. Adaimar is a little different. 7'3", he was a little more high maintenance. This guy, Kusturica, doesn't sound like he's as high maintenance as Adai, who I love to death, but he's just cut from a different cloth of European. It's that stuff Mick talked about. Give me the stinking, drinking, smelly European, those type of guys. There's different types of Euros, and I think that Kusturica fits that different type of Euro that Cronin was talking about. Because
Mara came from a club team where it was kind of like the neighborhood club team for him in Spain that obviously isn't as big as FC Barcelona. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but that background seems like to you that makes a big difference. And yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I definitely understand that. And very exciting that UCLA has the opportunity here to bring in a prospect of this caliber. Yeah. The other wing who UCLA had a chance to bring in, Chris, but he ended up choosing North Carolina, was Matt Abel. Are you able to compare the games of these 2 guys at all, and maybe kind of the pros and cons of what UCLA could have added? Putting you on the spot here a little bit, but I know we follow that Matt Abel recruitment very closely. UCLA ends up losing, but now they have a replacement here. Just how do those 2 players compare? I think Abel probably shoots it a little bit better, but you're talking about a guy that's projected to be a top 5 pick versus a guy that was entered into the NBA draft process this season and didn't like the feedback that he got. So you're talking about 2 different classes of player. No knock on Matt Abel. Loved Matt Abel's game. Loved the 6'6", the length, the ability to drive it and to attack and everything that he did at North Carolina State his freshman season. But I think when I'm watching Kusturica, I see the generational prodigious talent that jumps off the screen that I necessarily didn't see with Matt Abel. I mean, this guy Kusturica looks like he's still growing. He's long and gangly. I'm not, and this is simply a stylistic comparison in terms of body and build, because this guy was actually in the same draft class as me, but he reminds me in his movements early on right now of a young
Dirk Nowitzki. Now, this is just body, build, length, gangliness, movements. Dirk wasn't the fleetest of foot, neither is Kusturica, but I think that what he brings offensively in terms of understanding how to play the game, making basketball reads, presence on the glass, long, probably 6'11" wingspan, ability to defend multiple positions, excellent timing in terms of block shots, lives in the lane defensively in terms of playing on the perimeter and being in the passing lanes, and then the ever-evolving jump shot. This guy was around 34% last year for Barcelona. I think that number will go up. I just think his best basketball is ahead of him. He's still young. The key with Kusturica is he's a young 17. He has a tremendous amount of upside, and Cronin has a blank canvas to work with if he does pull this off.
Certainly really exciting. We have a comment in the chat asking us the correct way to pronounce the last name. We've been saying Kusturica because that's how it's spelled. I looked it up, Chris. It might be Kusturica.
Kusturica.
Yeah. So
yeah, I heard them saying Kusturica. Hey, Costa Rica, Kusturica. Okay, we got to figure it out. We got to ask them. We got to get the exact spelling. So we're gonna butcher it for a little bit, but it won't be forever.
Thank you, Bruins champion, for bringing that to our attention. Because I mean, it's the AI overview on Google that's saying Kusturica, but I think it's CH, like you're saying, and you've watched a lot of film of this guy and have a good grasp on him. I want to read a couple of scouting reports on Kusturica. So Draft Express's John Chepkovich does an excellent job, and his scouting report reads: promising, projectable frame at 6'8" with long limbs, big hands, and huge feet. Looks like he'll have a phenomenal physical profile in a few years' time. Last summer's FIBA U16 Eurobasket MVP is maintaining an encouraging developmental trajectory, looking like one of Europe's best NBA prospects, regardless of age. How can you not be excited about that? And then NBA Draft Room, it reads: one of the top international prospects in the world. Kusturica is an extremely talented big guard wing who can handle the rock, make plays off the bounce, and has an elite physical profile. He has great size and length for the position and instantly passes the eye test, can score from inside and out, and is really good at getting into the lane using a combination of great handles, a quick first step, and great size to cover ground quickly. Is a high field player who has some point guard instincts. Again, very exciting scouting reports there. One thing that sticks out to me, Chris, when I watch Kusturica's film, everything looks great based on those scouting reports. He passes the eye test. Is he a little slow to you? Do you think some of the paint moves that he makes in some of his games he'll be able to make in the Big Ten? That's something that I think he'll need to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of his natural growth and evolution in everything that I've watched, which includes every possession available on him and game footage on him on Synergy. I did notice that he is a little slow on the foot speed in terms of laterally moving, but that, to me, that's nitpicking, because now he gets in a high level, high major weight and conditioning program. He's getting into a development program that sent a guy that necessarily wasn't projected to be in the top 45 picks. Tyler Bilodeau makes it to the top 45, 43rd draft pick. You can't tell me that you thought Tyler Bilodeau was going to go before 50 or go before Henry Vassar, the big fella out of North Carolina. I think it speaks to not only Tyler's work ethic and how hard he's worked to develop his game, but it also speaks to Mick Cronin and that staff's ability to identify and develop a guy, understanding that Bilodeau's biggest attribute or best attribute was the shooting. And so Cronin did put him in positions to maximize that attribute, and it got him drafted. I think that Kusturica will undergo the same sort of developmental curve with Cronin. It's a lot different when you get to UCLA. You get in that weight room, you're around other high level type of guys pushing you. Coach Cronin and that staff really working with him to get him better, identifying, again, player development. Another guy, Jalen Clark, who I once called the quintessential Mick Cronin type player, signed a 3-year deal with Minnesota extension. He's, settled in the league, a guy that was a second-round pick. A lot of folks didn't know which way he was going to go, but I think it speaks to, again, Mick Cronin, the development aspect of it, and then Kusturica being around the UCLA universe and then getting involved in that work. It's all about the work and how much work he puts in. I think he's in the right place for that.
This is the Word Around Westwood podcast. We're talking today about some of the biggest offseason storylines facing UCLA men's basketball. And we just continue to lead the show here with Nikola Kusturica, who has been predicted by multiple outlets to pick UCLA. Like KJ said off the top, Kentucky was in the mix early, and now it looks like UCLA has the inside track.
Not to interrupt you, but I also have some high-level intel from someone that's very close to the situation, and it does look very good. It's not done yet, but it looks very good that the Bruins also, to corroborate all these other reports, we can say it with our chest out that it looks very good that he's going to be a Bruin.
And I want to give you credit, Chris. Way back when we found out UCLA was trying to finish off its roster with some European prospects, you put out a big list of the top guys, and Kusturica was the first guy on your list, and that was like 6 weeks ago. So if you like what you hear on this show and you want to be in the know with UCLA men's basketball and women's basketball, football, we do a bunch of other sports at UCLA too, make sure you head over to Bruin247.com. That's Bruin247.com. So, Chris, how appealing do you think it is for Kusturica, where Kentucky wants him? Yeah. They have a whole bunch of forwards on their roster. They get Momcilovic from Iowa State. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm 99% sure that's where he went. And then Michigan, they go through the coaching change. At UCLA, like, it's just such a perfect fit where we both feel like he's going to play so much and we'll just be able to develop and get better. Like, how big of a thing in his recruitment was that? How appealing do you think it is for him to just have this role where he could play a lot at UCLA, and at other schools that might not have been the case?
Yeah, I think the lack of a logjam at the small forward position was very appealing for Kusturica and his family, looking at the scenario that UCLA presented him. I think that the opportunity to play live game reps, to develop on the floor, to have to, play with pressure and be put in the scenarios that will, build you as a player. I think that was attractive as well. He's coming from one of the very best world youth teams that we have ever heard of. And so he's not trying to come to sit. Now, Grinvalds came from Real Madrid. I can understand him, understanding a role, taking a back seat. But this is a guy that, once again, when you're a projected top 5 pick in the 2028 draft and you're considered one of the world's top youth prospects, you don't pick a school that you're going to go and sit at. So we have to understand where the development and how highly regarded the European basketball space is now as it compares to college. As we've seen, the influx of Euros to the NCAA has been incredible over the last several seasons. So that, it's safe to say that they're pretty highly regarded. And so when a guy that's ranked as high as he is comes over to UCLA, he's coming to play. And I think the lack of a clearly defined starting small forward definitely contributed to his decision.
How does his potential addition change your thoughts on the team for next season? What does this addition mean for the ceiling of the 2026-2027 UCLA men's basketball team?
Well, I think it definitely raises the ceiling for the Bruins in the sense that now you get to you have an answer at the wing, a high-level game-changing talent, but you also get to keep Eric Daly, in my opinion, in his most comfortable position. I'm going to keep, beating this like a dead horse or whatever the word is. But this guy, Eric Daly, his ability to handle the ball and make decisions and facilitate, it's next level when he's playing the big forward spot. I mean, we saw it sort of towards the tail end of the season and into the tournament. Daly was playing some of his best basketball of the season at the 4. And I just don't think Mick Cronin really wanted to take him out of that and thrust him back into that 3 position, maybe potentially running a big lineup with him, Jovic, and Booker, which would have slowed UCLA down. It gives us one less ball handling creator. And I think, for next season in the Big Ten, in today's college basketball game, the more guys that you can field on the floor, right, that can handle and create and make plays, the better you are off and the better chance you got to win. So in terms of the ceiling, I think UCLA, before this guy, you're looking at potentially another season like you had the last couple of seasons, with probably a max of a Sweet 16 if we got lucky. The ball bounces a certain way. You pull a rabbit out the hat. But now, when you add Kusturica, now the ceiling. You're talking about Elite Eights and Final Fours. I mean, I think with the core that's coming back, the core five, the foundational five that returned to UCLA after their performance in the Big Ten tournament, when Tyler Bilodeau was down, when Donovan Dent had the calf injury, obviously during the NCAA tournament, in the UCF win, and in that first half of the UConn game. I mean, this group really showed me a lot to believe in, a lot to get excited for. And I think that the offseason additions of Jalen Petty, Xavier Robinson are going to be extremely key for UCLA. This is a team that lost Donovan Dent and Sky Clark, two dynamic ball handlers, can get downhill, break you down, penetrate and kick. Sky knocking down threes. Now you get two guys coming in that fill those voids in a sense. Now, they weren't as good in terms of the point guard situation as Donovan Dent was. That's the guy, 65 assists to 4 turnovers, during that stretch run. It was some of the best basketball that we've seen from a UCLA point guard in a long time. But you do have two more dynamic, strong guards, smaller in stature that are, low gravity, deep bag having, can create off the bounce, especially Jaden Petty in terms of an offensive production standpoint. And then to add Grenvalds, who I like as a depth piece, and the two Serbians, from one Matura from Mississippi State, Jovic from Auburn, to go along with Booker, Daly, and Kusturica, and then Trent Perry, who's going to make a jump where he's going to be on NBA radars in terms of a potential first rounder or in that top 35, in my opinion. Now you can work with something. Now you got something to work with. Now you have a team that you can field that has depth, that has size, that has versatility, that has skill, and that has scoring. Now we're able to replace what we lost with Bilodeau, Sky Clark, Donovan Dent, with some guys that obviously Kusturica, he's did it on a different level, but given the opportunity and the reps at UCLA, I think he can replicate that and be a double-figure scorer as a freshman.
It's definitely an exciting time, and a few other things with Kusturica before we move on. Bruins champion is a question for you, Kris. I'll put it on the screen here. How do you think his defense is right now? He looks like he's having some issues potentially with screens. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something it's based on the nuances of how he's being taught to fight through, how they play screens on Serbia, scheme-wise. I did notice that there's definitely some things there, but I think when you get a chance to play for one of the most, brilliant defensive minds in all of college basketball, and he's going to get drilled in. Sure, he's going to come in August, but I don't think this is going to be a steep learning curve for him in understanding the nuances of how to fight through screens or how to lock and trail or what to do to take angles to make sure. Because you got to remember, this is a guy and I don't have his metrics in front of me, but from the way it looks on the floor, you're talking about a guy that has about a 6'11", 7-foot wingspan. So he makes up for these, lapses in defense or slow foot speed with incredible length. He shows it by his block shots and his steals, 2 blocks a game, but he's been doing this for a while. He's also smart and has a high defensive IQ in terms of the angles he takes and the awareness that he exhibits when he's playing on the defensive end. So, the concerns are valid, but I do think that he's somebody that can improve very rapidly once he gets used to the hustle and bustle of the high major Division I game.
And as you've explained, you clearly think he's a ceiling riser for next year's team. And just in general, UCLA, it's not done yet, but it looks like it's trending with Kusturica to agree to a deal with the Bruins. They just needed a win so badly after missing out on Blackwell and Abel and just kind of striking out with some high-profile high school guys in recent years. So I think the fact that if they do land Kusturica, just optically it's significant. And then the fact, everything that you've explained about him as a player, yes, there will be some growing pains, but like everyone complains, if you're a UCLA fan, we can't get top end talent under this coaching staff. And then boom, they add a guy who's not just going to be a one and done. He'll be here for 2 years and then has the potential to be a top 5 pick in 2 years after spending 2 seasons with the Bruins. So as we kind of move on here, Kris, to some of the offseason storylines, a big thing is, Mick Cronin next year will be coaching for his job. UCLA, that they're in this awful position where I just did my eligibility chart, and everyone on next year's team, every single scholarship player has the opportunity, if they want to come back the following year. Mick Cronin has done a nice job retaining players for the most part in his tenure. If he were to be fired after next year, it would be an $18 million buyout. Everything that I've just laid out screams to me that it's a 2-year window for him to figure it out. And the expectation being next year can't be a disaster. I don't think either of us anticipate that. I think next year has the chance to be pretty good. But like this recruitment really, I think, emphasizes this 2-year window for this team, because Kusturica has the chance to be the best player, not maybe next season, but the year after on this team. I just getting hit over the head with the fact that I feel like it's a 2-year window for Cronin. And some people will roll their eyes and be like, oh, this guy, I'm so out on him. He did the thing with Steven Jamerson. I'm so frustrated, but I'm kind of looking at this as a good thing. And if he can bring everyone back for that second year, next year could be good. Then the year after that, they could be really, really good. And yes, there have been some highs and lows, but like all you want is a chance to be really good. And I think this group has a chance to be really good eventually.